Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. I apologize if you hear the AC, but it's hot as fuck today, so today I wanted to talk about the death of a mukbanger called Pan Xiaoting. So there's a lot to be said about that, but I did want to read this article from Daily Mail, and as I've said a billion times, I, for the most part, don't really use Daily Mail unless it's unavoidable. In this particular case, I wanted to correct a couple of things that Daily Mail fucked up, so here we are. How the death of 24-year-old Pan Xiaoting in China added the grotesque rise of extreme eating influencers in America. A dangerous new online trend claimed the life of its first star this week. Pan Xiaoting collapsed and died at 24 when live streaming a mukbang video, a binge-eating trend that has exploded in popularity since 2016. Her autopsy showed she had undigested food in her stomach after eating a reported 10 kilos of food, the equivalent of 22 pounds of food, including cake and fried chicken, over several hours. What I was gonna correct, though they did say that the trend has been around since 2016, I don't know when mukbangs really took off. All I'm gonna say is that they're by no means new. As far as I've seen, they've been some of the most lucrative types of videos, so it's not just that they're not new. This has been, I hate to say it, but culturally on the internet, mukbangs have been heavily discussed, not only because they get crazy amounts of views and because there's a lot of demand for it, but it's also like, there's been a discussion around, there are certain people that I know who watch mukbangs because they don't want to eat alone. They like to hear the sound, and all relatively normal-ish type shit, right? On the other hand, there are other people who get sexual gratification out of it, especially feeders, right? And feeders, if you don't know, as the name suggests, are people who get off on the idea of typically overfeeding people who are already a larger than average size, or turning people into a larger than average size. So it's kind of a weight-ish fetish from everything I researched back in the day. I don't know if the fetish has evolved. I'm a little too scared to check, but that's how it was back when. So the discussion around mukbangs isn't just the danger to yourself and your health, it's also like, who is this catering to, right? Because as much as for you, you're just eating a crazy amount, like the 10,000 calorie challenge used to be a thing, for the person filming it, it very well could just be, you know what, I'm gonna go fucking crazy today, whereas the people watching might be doing things that require doors being locked. Anyway, let's get back to the central point. Part of the mukbang discussion is also the idea of overindulging and, you know, there being consequences, much like we see here. And that's part of the discussion that gets quiet very fast though, because it's not a fun conversation to have, and it's obviously rather serious because as we see, the consequences can be fatal. Yet some of the most popular mukbangers in the US, with upwards of 4 million regular subscribers and viewers, doctors warn that every time they carry out one of these eating marathons, they drive their heart rates up, breathing becomes heavier as the body's demand for oxygen increases, and their blood pressure and insulin levels rise. And I mean, even without knowing all of this medical shit realistically, anyone can tell you that eating massive quantities of food in one sitting, especially if you're doing it repeatedly, it's not good. I think that much is obvious even for a dum-dum, right? Also worth noting, in the pictures at the top, they show Nikocado, avocado, and then Trisha Paytas. So these are the examples being given. They also have a before and after of Nikocado avocado in case you needed that, of him when he was really skinny, and then now when they say the YouTuber is now obese and suffers from sleep apnea. Kind of shady. So they give a history of mukbangs, saying that it started in Korea. If you want to read that, this will be linked down below, but truly I'm not here for the history of mukbangs. I wanted to talk about what actually happened. So it says, local media in China reported on July 14th that she died suddenly during a live stream. She passed away last week from a suspected stomach tear while devouring 10 kilos of food, which included chocolate, chicken fingers, and seafood. According to the post-mortem examination, her abdomen was visibly deformed and her stomach was full of undigested food. This indicated that her stomach could have burst, causing stomach acid and food to leak into her abdomen. So it says, viewers reportedly tried to provide help remotely but weren't able to do much. The live streamer had previously been hospitalized due to a stomach bleed when she died. Most of the food she'd eaten during her marathon challenge had not been digested and was still sitting in her stomach, bleeding in the gastrointestinal tract, can be a symptom of digestive disorders such as acid reflux, ulcers, and even cancer, according to the Cleveland Clinic. Pan first learned about mukbang from a friend, getting into the bizarre practice after seeing her pal earn lots of money from it. Her portions got bigger and bigger as her online popularity grew, and her viewers started showering her with gifts. Her parents were reportedly against her pursuit because of the harm she was doing to her body. Even her online fans expressed their concern about her increasingly large portions, but she continuously brushed off their worries. She carried on mukbang streaming even after overeating once landed her in the hospital with a gastrointestinal bleeding. To the viewers' horror, she began binge eating again just one day after being discharged. It's unclear if her death is under investigation. So one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this in the first place was not to pass any type of judgment, aside from the fact that obviously this is dangerous, and I think that's a judgment that we've all passed. Yes, this is dangerous. But it's interesting to me when we track online trends, right? I think we can collectively agree that eating crazy amounts of calories in one sitting, especially if it's a recurring thing, is probably not going to end well, specifically when people start putting on weight, because then they usually end up having other health issues. Because when we're talking about putting on weight, we're not talking about like a couple pounds. Like I've seen this happen. People put on hundreds, I'm not kidding, hundreds of pounds, right? And then they do start having health problems. So it's interesting to me how this isn't as widely critiqued anymore, and I don't know if everyone's out critiqued over this. Like we've talked about it enough times and it is what it is. But it's interesting because I feel like it's just one of those things that we continuously let slide. But realistically, I just wonder, at what point do we categorize this as harmful behavior? It would be like someone sitting on camera and binge drinking. Someone sitting on camera and binge eating, like too much, whatever too much is. That's part of what makes this complicated. Should this not be ruled out as some kind of danger to be online? Is that censorship? I'm just wondering. The reason why I bring this up is because there are websites, much like YouTube, that have, you know, their own quote unquote censorship, where there are certain videos of mine where just a word will be tagged and YouTube will be like, no, you know, we're going to demonetize this, which means that it's going to be shown to less people because this is, you know, potentially harmful when I'm talking about murder, stuff like that. So I'm wondering, in relation, what do we do with this type of content, and where do we draw the line in terms of when does it become dangerous and when does it become too much? Like when does it actually become a risk? Because realistically, if we're looking at Pan, she started doing this allegedly because she saw that a friend was making a lot of money doing the same thing, right? So then the question would be, do we want other people having that same kind of experience where they start doing it as well because it makes a lot of money, but then what are the consequences? So is there the need for a trigger warning? Like where do we go? Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.